What is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's time for the Triple Threat Vet Podcast. I'm your boy, Ty. I'm here with Matt Johnson and Al Hero. So I want to start out here real quick with saying last week we had Julie Austin and Matt Kane. Really appreciate them coming on. And, that was a great show with some MPs from Fort Campbell. They are starting the Dog Tax to Ownership podcast. So if you get a chance, wherever you get your podcast, go ahead and check them out. And if you want to tell your story, give us a call at Triple Threat or give us an email at triplethreatvets@gmail.com. We want to tell stories, like, share, subscribe, and follow. This week, we have a guest. His name is Patton Gade, West Point graduate. And now he is one of, if not the number one veteran mortgage originator in the United States. He's had a lot of influence over a lot of people in the industry. And here's the good thing. When you're making the biggest purchase of your life, you're probably going to want to get it from a veteran that knows what it's like, PCS. So when you're using that VA loan, use Patton Gade. Let's see what's going on with our boy Matt Johnson.
Oh yeah, well, I'm here. It's Tuesday. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming in. Thanks for stepping up to the plate and playing ball with us this week. So I will tell you, this week is the week that if you want to figure out if you're ready to go buy a home, you might want to listen in on this one a little bit. Maybe you'll get a little bit of tips, tricks, things that you can use to make sure that you're ready. If you are in and you have not used your VA loan yet, you might want to think about doing that. It's a great program. And then just to put it out there again, we're still doing a t-shirt contest. It's going through the year. We got 3 of them. And remember, it's the black t-shirt with the whiskey label on it. Oh, there it is. It's the one that's number 1 in line. That's the one you need to go get. And remember, whichever one of these shirts sells the most at the end of the year, 10% of the total sales of every one of the shirts that we sell this year is going to go to the charities that you see up there at the top, either the Texas Veterans Athletic Association, the Project Zero, or Camp Hope here in Houston, Texas. So go out there, buy a shirt, buy all 3, buy 3 of mine. That's probably what you need to do. And with that, we'll take it to the hero.
I'm just disgusted at Matt Johnson's sales pitch. Just when I thought of that, he is not the number one originator of shit. That's what he is. He's the number one originator of bullshit. That's what he originates. Anyway, so I want to touch on the topic today. I've been watching Facebook and social media, and there seems to be this trend, and I think it's a great trend, right? We got these women who decide that it's a good idea to fight men. Like, they're like smacking them and hitting them, and then eventually the man just decides like he's had it and like he 2-pieces these ladies up, right? And then people in the comments are going ape shit about like you shouldn't put your hands on a woman and all this craziness. Let me explain something real quick. Public service announcement. If you ladies run up on me and you were putting your hands on me and you were in the shoes of a man at that moment, I promise you, I will put you to fucking sleep. And I mean like 2-piece you up. I'm not choking you. I'm not holding you down. You could be in a wheelchair. I will dump you out the wheelchair and drop kick you smooth to sleep. Stop putting yourselves in the shoes of a man and wanting to fight men. And men out there, more power to you, right? I'm all about equal rights, but I'm also about equal fights. If you run up on me, just know you getting 2-pieced up, ladies. I don't know how my boys feel about that, but back in the day, we were all raised the same, right? Don't hit a woman, never put your hand on a woman. I've changed my worldview. If you run up on me and you're throwing hands and you putting haymakers together and you're trying to put me to sleep, bet your ass I will fight a woman. I will fight. Is that because you don't know?
You don't know what's running at you. That's why.
Not nowadays. I don't know when I'm about to 2-piece up. This might be a dude. I don't know what's really going on, but I do know if you run up on me, just know you going to sleep, ladies. If you wheel up on me in your electric wheelchair, I will put you to sleep in the wheelchair. I don't even care. Equal rights to equal fights. That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't have much to say about that.
Says preach, hero, preach.
Yeah, bro. I'm telling you, these girls today are crazy. Back in the day, I'd have been like, I won't hit a woman. I just shake the shit out of her, choke her. Nowadays, you run up on me, ma'am, sir, ma'am, he, him, z, zims. I'm putting you to sleep.
So here's the thing for the legend Grant Garrison is in the building today. He's only the 3-time defending champ of the 9/11 Memorial Scramble put on by the Project Zero. Grant, just go ahead, write it down on your calendar right now. September 15th is the day you got to go defend that title. September 15th. And for all you corporations out there that are looking to support veterans because you think that's a good idea, you might want to go check them out and, give us some of that sponsorship money so that they can do big things and continue to do everything and all the work that they're doing with the Project Zero. But I just wanted to let Grant know September 15th is the day that you got to go out there and defend it. I heard there's a whole bunch of people coming to take the title from you, though. So I'm just going to put that out there.
I got to spend this past week with Grant there, and we got to play a round of golf in Cabo San Lucas. I think he shot 2 or 3 over, if I'm maybe 4 over. I'm not for sure, but he had a good round, I think.
Was it crowded in Mexico with all the deportations? Was it crowded as hell?
No.
They got all their people back.
No.
Just saying.
Video about the Cabo thing. Check this out.
Okay.
Fun little time. Yeah. I didn't
married up.
take all the other, CI agents / people that I didn't know if they wanted to be in my photos. I had to take them out. That's why it looks bare, but there were a bunch of people there with us.
You married up, Ty. Your wife's beautiful.
I know it. I was just telling her a minute ago, like we were helping Tatum with schoolwork, and I'm like, man, you better listen to your mom. She's raised a 400-pound gorilla for the last 16 years. She should be a zookeeper, man. But keeping us in line in this house, Sarah is a saint.
Bruh.
Love you, baby.
Oh, wow. Grant said you guys enjoyed all the gunfights, buses on fire, and homicides. It was great.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't going to bring that up, but yeah, there was the cartels knew I was in town, man. I got a little nervous, and some stuff started popping off, but it was fine.
Did you you have a past due invoice from your time in Jack's?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
We need to collect on it.
We need to get that. You owe us a key. Yeah. Whoa, shit.
You're like, a key to what? I mean, I got my room key.
Yeah. Key to that hard age.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brian Talley with the Today with Talley podcast. That dude's he's got so many opinions. I like listening to him. I appreciate your social media, bro. And one of these days we're gonna get you on here, man. We got to link up. He wants to go have lunch with us there, Matt. We're gonna
let's go.
Some stuff.
Hey, you got David Willis in the building too. You got to say hello to that man. Are you watching on the big screen?
Today? Oh yeah.
Got it right here on deck for you, David. I got it on deck. I'm with Ty.
Look at that.
What's up,
Okay.
David Willis?
Okay.
With the Home for a Sit Rep hat. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah,
I'm
man.
not changing. And just in case you guys are asking.
I'll
get one though. I'll get one.
You about ready to bring in our guest?
Let's talk about this. So we have a really, really, really exciting guest on today, right? Ty. I know that he's somebody that we've talked about wanting to have on here for a while, just because of what he does, right? There's a lot of people that have a career or they do work or they do a lot of different things, but there's very few people that do it at the level that he does to make sure that people understand, what the benefit is of what they're doing. And so for all you guys that are sitting out there wondering, he does mortgage, VA loans. He makes sure that our veterans can take advantage of the benefit that they fought so hard to earn. And I'm excited to talk to him, but I was going to say, Ty, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction for him, and then we can bring him on in and we can start to have the conversation.
Well, the introduction is kind of what I was talking about earlier, but there's certain people where, of course, he was in the Army, he went to West Point. So we'll hear about that when he talks about his story. But after I got out of the military, I was still looking for that tribe. I was looking for the tribe of like-minded people that wanted to get together, do a task, do it really freaking well. And all the people that I worked with all talked about this man like he was a legend. And I was like, oh, okay, Patton Gade, cool. Patton Gade this, Patton Gade that. And then you start following him on his social media and seeing all the things he does. And just in this industry specifically, it is amazing to have someone that has a comprehensive knowledge of all the different things that goes on with any type of mortgage you would want. But specifically, if you're a veteran and you qualify for the VA loan, in my opinion, it is the absolute best thing that you can do to use to buy the biggest purchase you're going to ever have. So if Patton Gade is one of those people that everyone in the community, whether it's with companies I worked for, I never worked with Patton, but whether it was companies I worked for, they all talk so highly about him. People that have worked with him go on to get wonderful jobs and have great comprehensive knowledge. So he's helping veterans still. He's helping families get into homes, and that's what we love to see. Freaking success stories. So
Yeah.
That's the biggest. I mean, we can talk. You're gonna, pull out of him the story of, his military service. But
Sure.
I'm really excited to hear him wax poetic about, how he can help people. We've had Mac Verdi on that helps people. We've had, we know David Smith. We know all these people that are working their way up, and they're all influenced by Patton. And so now we get to see Patton. So let's do it, man. Without further ado, Patton Gade.
Welcome to the show,
gentlemen. Good to be here.
How are you?
I didn't know what I was walking into and then Al's talking about splitting people in half and stuff. I'm like,
yeah.
Only women.
Sometimes you need a nap. Sometimes you just need a nap. That's all.
I guess so.
Sometimes you put them to sleep. Put them ladies to sleep if they need it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Patton. Again, like Ty said, I don't know if people tell you enough or you hear it enough, or maybe you're tired of hearing it. I don't know, but you are very influential in why some people even get into the industry to become a mortgage loan originator to help people buy a home because they see the things you do and how you do it. So we're excited to talk to you about that. But before we get there, we do like for our guests to kind of give everybody kind of a background of them, talk to us about a little bit of your history. So if you wouldn't mind, we like to start off with where did you grow up as a kid? What was it like growing up for you? And then what ultimately led you into the decision to go into the Army and take your talents in college to West Point?
Yeah, so I grew up in North Dakota, just out. We had 25 acres kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So a lot of cold, a lot of snow. Obviously I was named after General Patton. My parents were patriots, and my little brother, his middle name is MacArthur. So you can kind of see like what my parents were all about. And so, cold winter nights, what do? You pick up books and you read about, Medal of Honor winners, and you read about, the World War II fighter aces and stuff like that. Right. So, you pick up a book and read. And so we did a lot of reading. My parents were both teachers. And, they brought us up and they said, you know what, this is the greatest country on earth. And it's the greatest country on earth because people have served others. And so if you're a boy in our family, you're going to grow up and you're going to serve your country in some way, shape, manner, or form. They didn't say you have to go into the military, but they did say you will serve others. And so that was a big theme in our life. My parents being teachers, like they dedicated their lives to young people. And, so I saw that as an example every day. And so that was just kind of a theme throughout our life. And so, I got, teachers in North Dakota don't make a ton of money, and we had 5 kids, and, it was, a little rough making ends meet sometimes. And I, looking back, I didn't know I was poor back then because I was rich in all the ways that mattered. And, family that loved each other and, took care of us and all that sort of stuff. And so, but I was looking at like, okay, how am I going to afford college? And so the natural thing was, okay, well, there's ROTC scholarships out there. And I started delving into that and going through that process of, like junior year of high school. And then I figured, you know what, if I'm going to go ROTC and I'm going to, I might as well go all out, and I might as well apply to the academy as well. And so went through that process, got a nomination from my congressman, or maybe I guess it was senator. Got a nomination from him and ended up getting into West Point. And so I figured if you're going to do it, you might as well go all out. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. And where in North Dakota did you grow up?
Grew up in a town called Minot.
Yeah. Why not Minot, baby? I was thinking you were going to say
that. That's our stomping ground. I've been to Minot a million times. I love it. I almost convinced my wife to buy like a home up there, like a vacation spot in Minot.
That was after he went to the world's largest consumer of what was it, Patron in the world.
Rugby, North Dakota,
whatever it is. Really? That's when he decided to move there. Is when he went into that bar.
I go to Minot and have a blast. Like I shut down bars in Minot for sure.
No, there's only like 3 of them though. So
on the rocks, I've shut it down. Matt left me stand at a bar by myself. He's like, you said one more and I'm going home. And I was like,
yeah, but he waited for everybody to give him one more and was like, that dude just gave me one more. It's not the same person, but I can't turn it down. I'm like, this dude, come on, bro.
Minot was a great place to grow up. I mean, it's at the time, and I graduated in high school in 90. So late 80s, there's not much crime. There wasn't much riffraff. I mean, the oil business over the years changed that a little bit. There was a lot of people that moved in and things got a little rougher in certain areas, but it was a good place to raise a family. Like we had a lot of freedom as kids and not much trouble you could get into other than driving up and down Broadway, waving at your friends.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
I actually know where that's at. So for you, did you only apply to West Point? That was it? You were like,
no,
I
did not apply to the Naval Academy.
Oh man.
I had no interest in that whatsoever. I did get into Air Force Academy, but I wore glasses for like 6 months in high school, and they said, you know what, you can't be a pilot. So I said, what's the point of going to the Air Force Academy if you can't fly? And then I did apply to some other, I had some backup colleges like Texas A&M and stuff. Like if I can't go to West Point, I might as well go to the core that's there and
gig 'em, baby.
Yeah.
So you went in with the mindset that you wanted to fly then, obviously, right? You just talked about.
No, not really. I just went in the Army and I didn't know what I wanted to do in the Army, but then, so I get to West Point, and our first summer, like when we're, Beast Barracks or whatever, we go at the end of it, you go out to this lake. So you go to Lake Frederick, and it's supposed to be like like 4 or 5 days where you can kind of relax before you get back into, your first academic year. And it rained on us. It legit rained on us for like 4 straight days. And we were digging, we're in those pup tents, right? You got your shelter half, and we were digging trenches around it, and it was horrible. And it rained for 4 straight days. And every single time we went out in the field, it rained on us. And so really early at West Point, I realized that walking around in the mud and the muck and getting rained on just kind of sucks. And so I knew I didn't want to be like an infantryman. I was like, nah, that's not for me.
Our rule was, if it's raining, we're training. That was like the CB motto, bro. It was like, if it's raining, we're training. I'm like, why?
Yeah, it gets old though. It gets old. So every time we went to the field as cadets, and it's funny, every time we get together as a big group of classmates, whether it be a reunion or something, I feel like it rains every single time. And so as a matter of fact, our class crest on our ring has a little raindrop on it to signify how much it rained on us during our cadet career. So, rain wasn't for me. And I thought, I don't know. I saw flying, and I thought, you know what, that looks pretty fun. Turns out it was a hell of a good way to spend your 20s.
Oh yeah. So kid from small town Minot, North Dakota, going to West Point to be in school there. How was the transition for you going into that? Because again, just by chance, we know Minot, right? Minot, very small town. Everybody knows everybody. You can't steal anything from the corner store without your family finding out. And now you're going in, to West Point, New York, into this massive school with all these people. What was it like for you making that transition?
So I'll tell you a funny story. So when they fly you to West Point, first off, I'd never been to West Point in my life. Never went and visited there. Didn't even really know where it was. So what they do is they the Army sends you a plane ticket, and I get on a flight in Minot. I fly to Minneapolis, and then I fly to Minneapolis to Newark, and I land in Newark, and I don't remember if they picked you up in a bus or if they just said, make your way to such and such hotel. So somehow I make my way to the hotel, and there were a whole bunch of people that are going to show up the next day for their first day at West Point, and they room you with somebody. Well, I was a young kid. Like, I graduated from high school like 2 months after I turned 17. And you had to be at least 17 the first day you showed up at West Point. So I'd literally, if I'd been 2 months younger, I would have been too young to be in my class. So so you show up as a 17-year-old, and they put you in this hotel room. Well, the other side of it is that you can't be any older than 21 on the first day. Okay. So there are guys that go to West Point that have been, active duty in the Army for 2 or 3 years, or they've gone to the prep school, or they did other things. So I show up as a barely 17-year-old, and I get in my hotel room, and some dude walks in. You couldn't be 22. That's what it was. You can't be 22 by the first day. This dude walked in, and he was a grown ass man, and I was just still a kid. He was damn near 22 probably, and we had just come from the bar, and I'm sitting here as just a baby. And I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. We're going to be classmates. And he's like, oh, I've been in the Army for 4 years. And, and I'm like, he's got a beard and stuff. I'm like, what did I get myself into? And the next morning, you get on a bus and you bus up to West Point. It's about an hour away, and you get off the bus, and all of a sudden people are yelling at you, get here, go, and you're getting in line and doing all that stuff. And I think the first week or so I was legit just wondering what the hell I'd done with my life and where I went wrong. But then you kind of get over it, and you start to fit in and whatnot. So
that's
yeah, I was a baby when I showed up there. There's no doubt about it.
So going through your time at West Point, any stories that are memorable for you? Army Navy games, anything that comes to mind that, like, other than rain, kind of defines your time there?
You know what? There were some super cool things that happened when you're there. I mean, the summer training and we got to go to airborne school between, I think it was right before my junior year. I went to airborne school, which was pretty fun. But there's some fun stuff that happens while you're at West Point. You make your own fun. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. But like the first Gulf War happened at the end of during my freshman year at West Point. And so the big hero of the first Gulf War was Norman Schwarzkopf, right? And so I think it was during graduation week at the end of my freshman year. We had a big parade. Norman Schwarzkopf was the guest of honor, and so he was standing out there, and we marched past him and all that stuff. And then we had to march down to the big auditorium, and he gets up there and gives a speech to all the cadets. And then after that, he's hanging out at the superintendent's house. Superintendent's a 3-star general, and so he's hanging at the superintendent's house, and we all start like having a big rally. Like, we're all supposed to be in bed, lights out and all that stuff. So it's 11:30 at night. We all get, all the cadets, we're just packed in front of the superintendent's house going, Norman. And he finally comes out. We're all breaking the rules and stuff, but he comes out, and the MPs show up, and they're supposed to be pushing us away and whatnot. And we're all like, Norman. And he starts pushing his way through the crowd. The next thing I know, like, I'm pushed up against Norman Schwarzkopf as he's pushing his way through the crowd. I'm like right here. I'm like, rub his head a little bit. He goes by, and then he goes out and he gets up and stands on top of one of the MP cars. So he's standing on the hood or whatever, and he's standing up there, and he grabs a bullhorn, or maybe he didn't. I don't know if he had a bullhorn or not, but he's like, all right, what we did. And he starts giving like a General Patton speech. He's like, we greased the treads of those tanks with the blood of our enemies, stuff like that. It was pretty, It was pretty awesome. But, you don't often get to be around, people that, one of the mottos of West Point is, lots of the history we teach is made by the people we taught. And, that's a fact. There are so many people that have gone before. And so when you start to like get a sense of the history of that place, and going back there now is just super special. And just walking around and just reminiscing about, classmates that are no longer with us and things like that. It's a special place. And if you've never visited there, it should be on your list of places to go visit.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you graduated from West Point and went in regular Army, where was your first duty station? Where did you go from there?
First duty station was Fort Rucker, Alabama. So that's where Army has flight school, and Lower Alabama, about 90 minutes north of Panama City Beach. And go there, and you spend roughly 18 months learning how to fly. And it's a whole bunch of 20, 21, 22-year-old lieutenants learning how to fly. Like, I can't even believe they gave me the keys to a helicopter sometimes. When you do your first solo, you're out there 20, 21 years old, you check out a Huey, and you get to go, putzing around the neighborhood in a Huey. It was looking back, I'm like, I can't, like, my daughter's 25 or whatever. And I don't even want to give her the keys to the car, much less the keys to a helicopter.
You can have the keys. But you can't have a toaster in your barracks room. I don't understand it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, here's this helo, but don't you dare have a hot plate or a toaster in that barracks.
You can't have a hot plate. That's stupid. It'll burn something down, man. Yeah. You have no sense.
Here's a rocket launcher. Don't you dare touch a hot plate.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, 18 months there. And then I shipped off to Korea. So my first duty assignment was Camp Stanley, Korea. And I spent, another 18 months or something in Korea. That was one of the best. I mean, best place to go as a pilot right out of flight school, because there are literally no rules, hardly any air traffic control. You know, we flew up on the DMZ all the time. You could see North Korea. But the ceiling, the highest you could fly was 500 feet AGL above the ground. So you were always low, like you're busting through town, looking both ways before you cross the street, because it might be a truck that's going to hit you as you go through. You know, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So go to Korea, and then what year did you graduate? We were talking earlier. You graduated from West Point. What year?
Class of '94 at West Point.
94. And so by the time you get out of flight school, you get to Korea. What year are you at then?
So got to Korea November of '95.
Okay.
And I stayed there till February of '97 and went from there to Fort Hood.
Oh, Fort Hood. Great state of Texas.
Yeah.
There you go. So and how many, and so were you in the military still when 9/11 happened?
Yeah, so I left Fort Hood. I went to the Officer Advanced course back at Fort Rucker. Went from Fort Rucker up to Fort Campbell. So I was in the 101st Airborne. So I went up there probably summer of 2000, maybe, or spring of 2000, somewhere around there. And then I took command of a company in 9th Battalion, 101st Aviation. In February, actually, it was 2 days before Dale Earnhardt got killed at the Daytona 500. It was that Friday before is when I just kind of always remember that. So, yeah, he took command in February of what was that, 2001. And so I was a company commander when 9/11 happened. Well, I mean, obviously nobody forgets where they were that day, right? So,
yeah.
Very
so
true.
where you mind walking us through your experience? Where were you? What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to fly night vision goggles that night. So if you're flying night vision goggles, you don't come in till about noon. And I'd specifically scheduled myself to fly goggles on Tuesday night because Monday night the Broncos were playing football against the Giants, and I wanted to stay up late and watch the Monday night football game so that I wouldn't have to get up and go to PT in the morning. So when you're the company commander, I guess you can make those rules, right? So. So I saw that. Anyway, so I woke up in the morning to my phone ring, and it was one of my warrant officers. He's like, "Sir, turn on the TV." And I go, "Why, man? Why?" And he goes, "A plane just ran into the World Trade Center." And I'm thinking, Cessna or something like that. And turn on the TV. I'm just a second. And I'm like, all right, we're obviously in war. Time to get into the, man, I'm getting all sorts of feedback. Are you guys hearing them too? No?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Anyway, so went into the office, and we're sat around all day watching the news and wondering what was next in our lives. And so obviously 101st is tip of the spear on a lot of things. Yeah, I think Ty, that helped when you muted yourself. That helped my feedback. I think that's better. Yeah, definitely better. So anyway,
unless you're in the MP company, then you're not shit, Bob. If you're an MP in the 101st, you're checking gate guard IDs and shit. Don't get excited because he said they're the tip of the spear. He wasn't talking about you guys.
We were dodging them on Friday nights for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Snitches get stitches, Bob.
Anyway, so at that point you're just kind of preparing. You're thinking you're going to go to war at some point, and we had a few mission things we did around, hauling some of the infantry guys up to guard some of the nuclear power plants and things like that. But really, it was just kind of being ready to go. Then I gave up command, and I see the comments over there by Bob.
Yeah.
You didn't work the road. Yes, you did, Bob. Anyhow, and then I gave up company command, and they said, what are you going to do next? Or I asked, what am I going to do next? And my branch detail officer or whatever was like, you're going to go be a recruiting company commander in Alabama. And I said, the hell I am. So that's when I decided to drop my paperwork and get out of the Army.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
And that was, I guess, 2001, right?
That was late. That was probably mid 2002. So I ended up getting out of the Army August or September 2002.
Okay.
And that was kind of a weird time, right? Because 6 months later, I got out. I got a job. I was working for Johnson & Johnson. I did medical sales, and I went back to North Dakota. I was living in Fargo, and then 6 months later, everybody was in the dirt. Right, the second Gulf War had kicked off, and everybody I knew was deployed, and they were in Iraq. And so I remember one thing that sticks out at me is a story that's worth telling. Is I walked out to my mailbox to pick up the newspaper on Sunday morning, and it was cold as can be. It was February or March or whatever in North Dakota. And I walk out there, grab the newspaper, and as I'm walking back in, I'm looking at the headlines of the news, and the headline above the fold was, 2 Blackhawks collide, killed, 15 people or something like that. I don't remember how many people got killed. And immediately I, as a Blackhawk pilot, and, all the guys from the 101st were over there, my first thought was, holy cow, I probably know some of these guys. And I went in, I picked up the phone, I called the wife of the guy that was my head instructor pilot when I was a company commander. He was a CW3. And I called her and I go, Loran, this is Patton. And she burst into tears, and my stomach dropped. And I'm like, oh man. She goes, he's okay. I'm like, was he in that wreck? And she goes, yeah, he was in that wreck. And, 2 aircraft flying, and their routes were converging, and they ended up running into each other and crashing down on top of a building, killed everybody in one of the helicopters, and killed everybody but the 2 pilots, I think, in the helicopter that my guys were in. And, I had a lot of, never deployed or anything. And, it was kind of like survivor's guilt, right? I was out there doing, making a lot of money as a civilian, working hard, having fun, doing all that stuff. But I felt like that's where I belonged, was with all the guys. And so, watching it on Fox News and CNN and seeing that whole thing go down, it was a little bit like kind of messed me up a little. Not messed me up, but I felt like that's where I belonged,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's especially if you were coming off of, you were in command, and then you relieved command, and they're like, you can go to recruiting duty. You're like,
yeah, no.
And you see that and you're like, well, maybe I should have asked to go somewhere else, or, you know what I mean? Yeah. I get that 100%.
Yeah. I felt like that's where after, between 4 years at West Point and 8.5 years active duty, 12 years, my whole adult life at that point was wearing a uniform. And then all of a sudden I wasn't, but now all the guys are doing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. Right. And so I kind of just felt like I missed out a little bit, but looking back, it's all for the better.
Yeah. And so when you got out, if we could back up just a little bit. So how far in advance did you let them know, I'm not going to go recruiting duty? And then you got out. Did you have time, or did you have a couple months?
You know what? I don't remember. I want to say it was, I think I put my paperwork in like April or May, and I was out by August or September, August-ish, maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. Maybe I put my paperwork in March or something, but it wasn't real long. It was just a few months.
And how prepared were you when you got out? Do you feel like you were prepared, or do you feel like you got out like most of us and went, all right, well, cool. What's next?
Yeah. Well, there are a number of companies that specialize in putting, especially junior officers, into jobs. And so once I decided I was going to get out, I started going through the process with one of them, and they kind of they teach you like business stuff, and they put you through interview prep and how to prep your resume and things like that. And then they had like a hiring conference, and you go spend like a whole weekend interviewing with like 15 companies. So that transition was pretty good. It wasn't like I got out and was like, okay, what am I going to do? It was a pretty smooth process. And so I got out and had a pretty decent job starting off, and off we went.
Nice. And then, so you said you moved back to North Dakota.
I did. Yeah. I lived in Fargo, and my territory was North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Minnesota, and Iowa.
Oh,
so I did a lot of driving and all that sort of. It was
nowhere did you mention anywhere warm. Like
I know
you mentioned was
not.
like,
I got my car one
tundra.
day. I got my car one day to drive to some little hospital in northern Minnesota to go do a surgery with a doctor there that was going to use my stuff. And I left my house. It was like 4 a.m. leaving Fargo, and it was 26 below or something. And I'm out driving on a 2-lane highway with like, there's not going to be anybody that passes by me for hours if I slip off the road. And it was 26 below, and I'm like thinking, what am I doing with my life? Like, what are you doing? Terrible.
Oh man. No, you couldn't even get frequent flyer miles, dude. There's no way to fly where you wanted to go up there either. It's not like you get direct flights.
Bob wants us to get to talking about VA loans. No, it's super easy, Bob. Call me. It's like super cheap, fast, and easy to do a refi when the time comes. You got to wait a little while, 6 months.
There you go. Yeah.
You can even check his ID card, Bob, and let him in. You can be like, come on in the gate. You can let him in, Bob.
So how long did you do sales and medical, one, before you decided to get out of the cold, or do you still live in the cold? I mean, maybe you like being cold. I don't know. And two, like what was the thing, like was mortgage the next thing you did, or did you do a couple things before that?
Yeah. So, no, I did medical sales for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And so up until 2014, and I got out in Fargo, 2005, went to Cincinnati, which is where company headquarters were, spent about 18 months there, got another promotion, and they sent me to Phoenix, Arizona. So, somewhere 2006, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I've been here ever since. So the answer to your one question, am I still in the cold? Heck no.
Hell no. Hell no.
And I don't care if I ever see snow ever again, to be honest.
You went from negative numbers to triple digits. Look at you.
That's right.
That's right. There you go. Complete 180.
Well, medical sales is a good industry. I mean, you can make some really good money in that medical.
Yeah, it was good. There's good. Yeah, there was good money in that. I mean, but things changed over the years, and you know, I worked for a spine company for a while, so I'd go into spine surgery. I was selling the screws and the rods for people to put backs together and all that. You know, you'd stand there in the OR for, 14 hours, you know, with a heavy lead vest on because they're taking x-rays and all that stuff. It's kind of a miserable life.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy that all that much. And so eventually I fell into mortgages at some point. And if you want me to tell that story, that's probably your next question.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how did I get into mortgages? Nobody let's be real. Nobody wakes up as a 10-year-old or whatever, or 15-year-old and goes, you know what I want to do with my life? I want to be a mortgage loan officer. Like, nobody ever thinks that. And so it's kind of a joke inside the mortgage industry. Like, we've all got a story like, how the hell did you find mortgages? Well, here's how I found it. So 2009, actually, one of my classmates from West Point got killed in Iraq, and I went to his funeral. And at the funeral, I hung out with one of my other classmates that I didn't know at West Point. And over the years, we ran into each other a few more times at Army Navy games and whatnot. And I happened to see in it was like April of 2014, he posted like, hey, we're going to take a trip to Sedona, which is not far from Phoenix. And where should I stay with my wife? And so I posted on there like, hey, you know, when you're down here, let's get together and have a beer. And so he did. Him and his wife and my wife and myself and then another classmate of ours that we both knew. We went, hung out, had a few beers, had dinner. And he was like, dude, you got to come work for me. And I was like, I'm good. And like 6 months later, there was some screwy things going on in the company I worked with. And my spidey sense was going off. And I'm like, something isn't quite right. And that's true. Something wasn't right. Like 6 months after I left, my national head of sales, I think he got arrested by the FBI or something for Medicare fraud and bribery and all sorts of nasty stuff. So anyway, my spidey sense was right, but I was talking to my wife and she goes, call that guy. I go, what guy? She goes, that guy we had dinner with. I go, who's that? She goes, remember that guy like 6 months ago? I go, oh yeah. And I call him up and I go, hey, you said come work for you. What do you do anyway? And he said, well, I do mortgages. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't even know what that means, but okay. I knew nothing about, I bought and sold a couple of houses, but I knew nothing about mortgages. And so he's like, well, let me hook you up with the branch manager in Phoenix and I'll go, you can go talk to him and see what you think. And so I went, sat down with the guy for like 2 hours and I called my wife and I said, I want to do mortgages. Like, I think I can be good at this. I'm a math geek. Like it seems like it works out. And so I started that, worked for a bank out of Chicago, but they had an office here in Phoenix. And so that's what I did. I started working in mortgages and put a headset on. And I was one of the guys that, it was a call center. So we would buy a bunch of leads from, places like lendingtree.com. People would put their information online and say they wanted a mortgage, and you'd call them up and go, hey, you want to refinance? And half the people would be like, F you, you're the 8,000th person that's called me. Like, go, they'd hang up on you. And then every now and then you talk. And, it's a lot of fun. Ty knows that fun, don't you, Ty?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That, yeah. Not a huge fan, but I do think it's very important, and the people that get good at it, they do good service. But yeah, not for me for sure.
Yeah. So, but here's what happened during that time is, I learned. Ty, put yourself back on mute. I'm getting a bunch of feedback again. So what happened to me? I don't know, Ty. I don't know what it is, but when you're on mute, I don't have to hear myself like echoing. Anyhow, so one thing I learned, there was when you get a lead, there's a box that says veteran. And I realized that if I could connect with the veteran on a veteran to veteran level, that I'd have a much better chance of keeping them on the phone for 5 minutes or 6 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. So, I'd just be like, hey, Al, it says here you're a veteran. What service were you in? And Al would say, well, I was in the Navy, and I'd make fun of the Navy, and I'd be like, oh, well, you're a Navy guy, I'm an Army guy. We're probably going to fight, huh? And he'd laugh, and I'd laugh. But now we'd start talking about Navy. Hey, when you're in the Navy, what'd you do? And what'd you do in the Army? And we'd talk and we'd tell stories. And sometimes it'd be 30 minutes before we'd ever start talking about a refinance or a purchase or whatever they wanted to do. And so I realized that the veteran to veteran connection, is obviously something. It means something to just about all of us, right? That's why you guys are here, a couple Navy guys and an Army guy doing a podcast, is because veterans like to talk to veterans. We like to hang out with each other. So, and then I realized that 99% of loan officers in the world absolutely suck at VA loans. Like, they're just bad at it. They don't know the rules. They don't know they don't speak the language of the veteran. They don't speak the language of an active duty person. They don't understand what it's like to PCS. They don't understand the rules of how you calculate entitlement, and they don't understand that you can have two VA loans at the same time. And they don't understand, like, they just don't care that much. And so either they screw it up, and that's why the VA loan has gotten some bad rap over the years with realtors, is because loan officers have screwed them up and blamed it on the VA, because it's really easy, right? To go, well, this loan is all screwed up and it got denied because the VA, they just did this stupid stuff, and I don't agree with them, but the VA is the VA. They throw up your hands, and they don't take the personal responsibility and take that onus upon themselves and just admit that they screwed up and they didn't know what they were doing. So I think that's why the VA has gotten a bad rap over the years. But I realized that there's this missing thing where people suck at VA loans. And so I got good at them, and I got really good at them. And it's just that became my passion project, is like, what? First of all, loan officers need to be better at VA loans. So I need to teach loan officers how to be better. Realtors need to understand how powerful this product is, and that it's not a bad thing if you're a listing agent, you get a contract for a VA loan. It may be the strongest loan you could possibly get. And then the third thing is that too many people out there that are veterans that have access to this VA loan have no clue how to use it and how to leverage it to make their life better. And it went so far as at one point I was like, man, I wish I would have used a VA loan. I pulled my own certificate of eligibility and realized at that point that I had used a VA loan back when I bought a house at Fort Campbell. Like, 15 years earlier, I had used a VA loan when I bought my first house. I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know it was a thing. I like didn't know anything about it. And, that was pre-internet, right? We didn't really have much internet at that point, but well, we did, but it wasn't like it is today where you can get, go on YouTube and see stuff like this and learn things. It was watching cat videos, whatever. So
yeah, that's my favorite excuse though. I've done real estate and worked in that space, and like hearing the stories where like they'll come to you and go like, oh man, we could have done this, but the VA said something about like the appraiser or whatever it is. Like they blame the VA, and then my favorite of all time as a realtor submitting an offer for a house, the agent calls me back and they're just kind of like, I don't know. The owner's really iffy. They're not putting any money down. I was like, okay, hold on. So you're telling me that you'd rather someone have to prove to you they got 60 grand in the bank versus no money down and let's just pay some closing costs? I mean, if I get it, but I don't. Like, who are you working for? Right? Like, what's going on here? And everybody blames the VA. That's why we like talking about it on here, and we like to get people that know their shit per se, because all of those myths that are out there are so crazy, and you've seen all the stories, right? People that don't use it because someone talked them out of it or said that there's a better way to go, and like all these things, all because you are too lazy to go learn how it works and make sure that the veteran that earned it can get it, right? Like that's the biggest part, is just that burns me when you hear of people that don't use it because someone told them something else was better. Like, get out of here. There's no way at all.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I mean, a loan officer should be fired if they talk, especially if somebody has a VA disability. 100% of the time, if they have a VA disability, there's going to be no better loan product on the planet. Number two is it's the most flexible product on the planet, and it's so powerful. Like, I wish, going back to when I was a young lieutenant, like I'll tell this story. So I get to flight school and I rented a townhouse with one of my West Point classmates. So we're living in this one townhouse, and it's a group. It was actually an 8-plex. So it's not something you could do with a VA loan, but it was 8 units just hooked together. And then right next door to that were another 8 units identical to it. And down the street, there were probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 4-plexes. And guess what? The same old retired lieutenant colonel owned every single one of these doors on this whole block. And it was just this little curved street. And they were full of lieutenants and warrant officers, everybody in flight school. And looking back on it, this dude had 32 doors or something in this one little street. And he's getting $1,500 a shot for all 32 doors. And there's always, if somebody would move out and 2 days later, somebody would move in, it was just constantly rented.
Yep.
And it never keyed in my mind that this was something like, hey, this guy's got it made. He would show up in his little white beater t-shirt and fix our sink or whatever. And, I never thought like, hey, this guy's rolling in cash. And then I get to Fort Hood, and one of my buddies was, he's a young captain. I was a young captain. And he was married, and he had like a 6-month-old daughter, and he owned his house. And I was thinking in my head, and I maybe even said it to him, like, man, you must be rich. Like, how can you afford a house? Well, he used his VA loan. He spent $0 to live in this house. And he and his family lived in a house. I go, well, what are you going to do when you PCS from here? And he's like, I'm just going to rent it. I thought, oh man, you're going to be a landlord. Like, who wants to be a landlord? Like, that's crazy. What are you going to, what if your toilet plugs up? You're going to have to get a phone call. Like, I didn't know about property management and that stuff. And I look back on that and I'm like, man, there was such a missed opportunity for me because I knew nothing about this product that could have, I could have bought a house for, at that point, maybe $120,000 and maybe sold it for $150, or maybe kept it for a long time and sold it for $250 or whatever, if somebody else paid my mortgage down. And then I could have gone to my next place and bought another house. I could have, so that's one of the things I want to do now is teach these young guys, like, look, here, let me teach you about VA loans. Let me teach you all of the power of it, where you can, like, I'll tell you another story. I got a lead. It was probably 2018 or something. And it was this young lady, and she goes, Well, my husband and I are moving to Eglin Air Force Base from Fort Campbell. He's in the 7th Special Forces Group or whatever. And she goes, we've been told a couple times we can't buy a house. I'm like, well, why not? And they said, well, because we already own a house at Fort Bragg. And I'm like, yeah, but you can have 2 VA loans. She goes, really? I go, yeah. And we worked up the numbers, and sure enough, they qualified. I get them into a house at Eglin. A few years later, he gets out of the Army, and they want to buy a house in Alabama. And so I did that loan and get them a house in Alabama. Now they have 2 rental houses, and they're living in a 3rd one. And at this point, they're exploring buying their 4th house with a VA loan, which would require a little bit of a down payment, but not much. And now they're going to have 4 houses and 3 rental properties. He literally got out of the Army. He has no, he doesn't have a job, but he's got his VA disability, and he's got his, rental income from all these houses. She has like a part-time job that pays her a little bit, but they literally live, out on this hobby farm with little miniature cows that are like this big, and, chickens, and they got 3 kids, and, kids are running around, and they're full-time living really a life of freedom, of financial freedom. Like he's not slaving 9 to 5 at a job every day. And he's, 28 years old or something at this point. And he couldn't do that without real estate. And so, I've been there to coach them through that. And like, she'll call me and be like, Patton, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate like what you've done for my family. Like I'm living a dream life right now, all because of what you helped us do over the course of the last, 6 years. So that's awesome. And that fires me up. And I go, man, more young people need to know how to do that. Right. And they need to have just the guts to step out and go, what do I got to do to get my first house? And then after that, what do I got to do to get the 2nd one, the 3rd one, the 4th one, and leverage this benefit that we all have. Right. And it's, people just don't know about it or don't know how to use it. Like if I went back to a 21-year-old, I'd be buying a 4-plex.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'd rent to you 3, but I'd rent the other 3.
Don't worry. It would be clean. We'd take care of it. There'd be no damage when we left.
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, yeah, probably not. Well, but it makes it crazy.
You better get a deposit for me. You better get double deposits for me. First, last month.
I knew you were going to be the trouble one too. So
yeah. So Bob, I know I see on there, you said VA loans have changed big time. I mean, they're always changing. That's the thing that you have to know, right? Like a lot of people don't realize, one, what you just said, Patton, that you can use it more than once, right? But now with where, county loan limits just being that like how much you can spend on a VA loan is the number. But, I remember when they changed it to where now, if you've never ever used that loan, you don't have a number. You can buy a house. The only time that number comes into play is when you own more than one and all that stuff, right? And the key is, you can buy a 4-plex. You just got to live in one of them for a little bit.
I'm on my 3rd VA loan. I bought one in Columbus, Georgia when I was stationed down there. And then I bought the house I live in now, and then the house that we have. I love the VA loan.
Yeah, not only can you use it multiple times, if you buy it and sell and buy and sell, you can have it multiple times, but you can also have multiple VA loans at the same time.
Yep.
You buy it. It's got to be primary residence when you first buy it, but then you buy it and then you PCS, and you can turn that into a rental, and you buy the next one. You PCS again. You go to the next one. And then 2020, I think what you were just talking about, Matt, was in 2020 they changed the rules where there used to be a county loan limit if you didn't have any VA loans being currently used. They took away that limit, and now you can go buy, if you can afford the monthly payment, there is no limit on the price of the home you can buy with 0 down payment. So we've done loans that are like, I think the highest we've done is 4.7 million purchase with no down payment whatsoever. Like,
how awesome is that for you to walk into a $4 million home and be like, yeah, I got this no money down. What's up?
It's good. Yeah, I could do that. And then I'd be foreclosed in 90 days. Cause they'd be like, this dude ain't paid none of the payments. His credit score is dipping. I'd be like, I ain't got it.
Well, here's the other thing you can do with VA loans, and people don't know this either. Like, okay, so let's say you've got some debt. Let's say you've got a little bit of debt and you're like, man, I don't know if I'm going to qualify for a loan. Well, guess what? I've done loans to where, the seller is going to give up some money And let's say you're going to buy a $400,000 house. Well, if you went in and offered that person 380, what would they accept it? Like maybe they're desperate to sell and they'll accept 380. But what if you go in and offer 400 and you say, hey, give me $20,000 to pay for closing costs and seller concessions. And you go, okay, well, closing costs are going to be, let's say they're going to be $7,000. What are you going to do with that other 13,000? Well, you take that 13,000 and you use it to pay off a $13,000 credit card that you're carrying.
Yep.
Or you pay off a $13,000 car that you're paying $800 a month
Buy
on.
mud tires and Bush Light. Shit.
Yeah. Ty, he was probably paying off his Mustang that he bought at 26% interest.
Yeah, he was. His Dodge Charger, his V6 Dodge Charger.
How'd you know? But that's the crazy part too for these loans, is that people just don't understand that, right? And so, I mean, we talked about it earlier. You are one of the, if not the most successful originator for VA loans in the country. You've been recognized as being in the top tier status of that. You've helped so many people get into the space and realize what you paved the way for is the way to go. I'll tell you this. I got a lot of respect for what you do. I can't be on that damn phone and hear somebody tell me they want to go somewhere else for like $5. That shit pisses me off. So I'm a much better realtor than I am a loan officer. I did both. But I respect what you're doing over there and helping people and getting there. And so now, you being in the position that you're in now, what is it like for you in the industry? Like, take it right now. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty. People don't know if they should or shouldn't. You know, what kind of advice are you giving people today when they're trying to make that decision?
You know, that's a really good question. So, you know, at this point in my career, I'm not a guy sitting with the headphones on and dialing 300 dials a day. You know, at this point, you know, most of my business is people that have either worked with me in the past or somebody I've worked with that is telling other people to call me, or somebody sees me on a podcast or whatever, and they say, I want to talk to this guy, or they find me on Google or whatever. So I'm not that phone jockey anymore, thank God, because that's a rough deal. But what I would tell you is, you know, you read the news, or you listen to the news, or you watch the news, or read something online. I mean, most people are predicting that the Fed is going to start to lower rates and that interest rates are trending downward. I don't know how fast that's going to happen. It may be a pretty slow decline. But the general consensus in the market is that the rates are going to go down. There's a lot of reasons for it. You could go into like birth rates of people back in the late 80s and when the average first time home buyer is and how many homes need to be built and all that stuff. There's definitely a gap between how many houses there are available and how many people need housing. And so that tells me that the demand for housing is going to continue to be strong. I don't see a big crash coming just because we're just short millions of houses across the country, and the builders have to build and build and build and build just to catch up to where we are with the number of people in our country. So that's number one, is there's not a housing crash coming. Number two is interest rates are predicted to fall pretty significantly. There are a lot of reasons for that. Inflation seems to be somewhat under control. The job market is starting to struggle a little bit. If you read, there's a jobs report coming out in a couple of days, but job market is starting to struggle a little bit. And so there's people talking about recession. Well, typically what happens in recessions is interest rates tend to go down, house prices go up. So if you buy today, especially on a VA loan, like Bob, you're talking about, VA loan that you bought a house a little while ago, what's going to happen? Well, in 6 months, I think the interest rates are going to be lower, and you're going to be able to do an interest rate reduction loan. It's very fast, very cheap, nothing out of your pocket. All the closing costs can be rolled into the new loan. And so essentially, $0 out of pocket, you skip a payment or two, and you have a lower interest rate potentially, depending on what your current rate is. So the rules are the rate has to drop by 0.5%. It has to be at least 210 days between your first payment due date and when you close on the new loan. And then the closing costs, whatever you save monthly times 36, that's the maximum amount of what your closing costs can be. So if you save $200 a month, 200 times 36 is 7,200. That would be the maximum amount that your closing costs that can get charged on your on your new VA loan that gets rolled into your new mortgage amount. So, so what I think is that rates are going to drop, and guess what? When rates drop, what's going to happen? For anybody that's sitting on the sideline right now, when rates drop, that's going to cause more and more people that are sitting on the sideline right now thinking they're going to be smart. Hey, I'm going to buy when rates drop. Well, guess what? When rates drop, all these people are going to come off the sideline. They say for every 1% rates drop, there's going to be 1 million more shoppers in the market. Well, what's that mean? If you got one person trying to buy a house, it's a buyer's market, right? You can set your price. You can ask for things from the seller. If the seller has 5 people or 10 people or whatever that are trying to buy that same house, they're not going to give you any seller concessions. They're not going to pay for your closing costs. And frankly, they're going to charge a higher price for the house. And so that's what pushed house prices up. When rates dropped really low back in COVID, like house prices, what happened to them? They went through the freaking roof, right? And that's because there was so much competition. Sellers could get anything they wanted at that point. Well, right now, sellers can't get anything they want in most markets. Right. And so it's a good time to negotiate with sellers. And when rates do drop, you can refinance. Is that a year from now? Is that 6 months from now? Is that 2 years from now? I don't know, but I think it's going to be lower at some point in our future. And
sounds like a streamlines in my future. That's what I'm
That's
hearing.
right.
I'm hearing VA streamlines in the future coming up in a couple months,
could be.
a year from now. Hey,
Yeah,
I'm all about that streamline.
Yeah. So super easy loan to do when the time comes. And so I think now's a good time to buy if you're on the fence. And I mean, it's worth a look.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because interest rate is, I mean, think about when you buy cars or whatever, right? You're doing a 30-year loan. Most cases you could do 15. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. But like that interest rate you're going to get today versus what you get in 6 months. I mean, really, how much is that? How much more are you paying per month to do that? And what I explained to some people in Texas is like, you don't really need to worry about what you're paying like on your house note. Go look at where you're moving to. The taxes is what's getting you, dude. It's the taxes.
Here's the other thing too. So if you, I mean, we can just do the math, right? Let's say you bought a $400,000 house today, and let's say you paid 6.5% interest, 30 years. That principal and interest payment is $25.28. Okay, the average, depending on the market you're in, that house price houses are appreciating by somewhere in the neighborhood of 5% every year. Okay, so let's say rates drop, and now that pushes house prices up again. So let's say rates do drop, and now you pay $550 for a house. $550 for a house, and let's say rates drop to 5.5%. It's the same house, by the way. It's now worth $50,000 more because rates dropped. Guess what? You're at $550, and let's say you did a 5.5% interest rate because rates dropped 1%. You're paying $31.22 now.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks interest rate is the kicker. It's not. It is not the. I'm telling you, people are like, "Well, my neighbor got a 1% interest rate." You're like, "How much did they pay for that, dude?" You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing is people get suckered. Like to veterans out there, there are a lot of snakes in the mortgage industry. Okay, I'll just straight up. And what they're going to do is they're going to send you something in the mail. And the something in the mail is going to say, you can get 4% interest rate. Just call me. And you call them and they go, they've got, the whole spiel like out there. They're like, okay, here's the deal. You're going to save this much money. You're going to save all this money and you're going to save this. And you're going to skip 2 payments. And you're thinking, oh, this is great. What they're doing is stripping equity away from you, because to get to a 4% interest rate today is going to cost a lot of money in closing costs. Guess what it costs you out of pocket? Nothing. But guess what it does cost you is $20,000 in equity in your house.
Yep.
And that's the crap that really pisses me off, is the people that are out there, because most consumers, most buyers, they are, yeah, you're right, Bob. That's exactly the people I'm talking. I get letters from them 3 times a week. But the thing that costs you money is, it's not that, you save $200 a month, but guess what? If they're adding $20,000 to your loan amount, that's real money. It may not be real money today. It didn't cost you $20,000 out of your pocket, But someday when you sell that house, that's $20,000 that you don't have. And was it worth $200 a month right now? Like,
Nope.
Probably not. So you got to be really careful.
That's kind of my point. Like, it's a couple.
You got to be really careful on these refinances. Like, people are out there screwing veterans for their own paycheck.
Correct.
And it's just flat out wrong. And I'll scream that every day from the mountaintops.
Yeah. So
be careful.
What's next? Like, I mean, you're doing this. I mean, things are going well. Like, do you have anything that's coming next? Anything in the future? Anything you want to tell people about? Like, because I'm sure you have people calling you to come work with you, and you're helping people get there. But what's
yeah,
next?
You know what? I think we're building some momentum right now. I've got a team of 15 dudes. We're all veterans, every single one of us, and we've got Navy guys. One guy's a Navy diver. I've got some ex-Task Force 160th dudes. I've got some Marine Corps officers. I've got some West Point guys. I've got some non-West Point guys. I've got just a group of people that really spans. I got a Coast Guard guy. Did you guys know Coast Guard was actually a military service?
Damn, Puddle Pirate. They're really what?
Did you know Coast Guard was a military service?
No.
Department.
I thought they were related to the Boy Scouts.
It counts.
Okay.
I thought they were like older Boy Scouts.
I don't know if he's watching this tonight, but anyway, so I've got guys just across the spectrum, and we all have a heart and a passion for taking care of veterans. We want to take care of the people that we were back in the day for me, but some of these guys are just literally taking off their uniform. And who was it that was saying earlier, like you, Ty, was it you earlier that was talking about when you took off the uniform and you just wanted to be around people that had a mission, right? So our mission is to take better care of veterans than anybody on the planet. Like, you need to get a great deal, but you need to be cared for and given the right advice, right? You got to be given the advice of, hey, now is not the time for you to refinance. I don't care what that thing in the mail was. You need to call me before you do it, and people go, okay, good. And the reason is because I'm going to give you the math and I'm going to lay it all out for you. And I'm going to go, this is why you don't do it today. We got to wait for it to make a little bit more sense. We got to, maybe it's an extra 0.25%, or maybe it's something, whatever it is that we got to get to, or maybe you structure the loan in a way that instead of paying all the closing costs, we're able to give you just a slightly higher interest rate than you would have gotten, but I can cover all the closing costs. Like, if I came to you and said, hey, Ty, you owe $500,000 on your house at 6.5%, I can put you at 6%. And you owe the exact same amount. You're like, what's the catch? Well, you could go to somebody else. They might put you at 5.75, but you're going to owe $510,000 on your house. Well, that $10,000, what's the difference between 6% and 5.75? I mean, what, $100 a month? Like, is it worth 10 grand out of your future cash when you sell that house to save $100 a month for a period of time? Like, maybe not. Depends. But it's worth going through that discussion to have to really understand what those numbers are. And so that's what my team is committed to. And we're growing, and we're always looking for people that have the heart to serve veterans. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
You had me at veterans. You lost me at math, bro. You started talking numbers and shit. My brain's hurting over here. Oh, like, damn, percentage numbers. Is there a letter in there?
You can count about that high, right?
Ooh, at least.
Dude, he's got his shoes off right now. He's looking at the
shoes
floor,
off,
dude.
you might be able to get to 20.
His headphones are holding the smoke in.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. So we're just looking for people that want to be part of something special, part of a group of people, a group of guys that are committed to doing things the right way and taking care of our people the way they should be. And there are a lot of companies out there, they talk a good game, or they have a cool name and all that sort of stuff, but that's not what it's all about. It's about the people and the heart that they have and that are true experts at this particular loan product. And that's what we have.
Hurrah.
That's good stuff. Well, I mean, now we get to ask you hard questions.
Okay, go for it.
That'd be good.
All right.
We just need to make sure that there's not a super big echo. But Ty, you could mute after you ask the question if you want to do that. But we need to get the real deal.
There's no echo unless I'm talking, and that's
good now though.
Not now. I don't hear it now.
Good. Maybe I fixed it. You can hear me though, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we like to do the hot seat questions. I feel like I've been on the hot seat all night because hearing a lot of this stuff that you're talking about is like literally the stuff that I heard for the last 4.5 years of my life. So, it's really cool to hear this perspective. It's really cool that I have a bunch of friends that are in the mortgage business, and I know Matt Duhan works for you. I call him the mad scientist, and I wish you all the luck in the world. But now you're in the hot seat, brother. So we just like to ask, a few questions, maybe 10 of them or so. Just give me the first thing that comes into your brain. All right. What is the most important Army value when you talk about loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage? What's the one that's most important to you?
I'd say loyalty.
All right. Why loyalty?
Oh, there's Duhan showing up. Loyalty. I mean, I think that's just the core, right? When you're shoulder to shoulder with people, you've got to have the loyalty. You've got to have the understanding that the people next to you have your back, that they're there to serve you and protect you, just like you're there to serve and protect them. At the end of the day, when bullets start flying, or when this business is crazy, you got to be able to trust the people next to you. And I think it comes down to loyalty.
Oh yeah, no doubt. A great answer. I like loyalty as well. All right, you have a 1-hour conversation with anyone from history. Who is that one person you're going to have that 1-hour conversation with, and what are you going to talk about?
I'd have to say, I got to talk to General Patton, don't I?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I was going to ask you when we were talking about West Point, who is your leader, but now that we know you're by Patton, that would have to be the answer, right? Go ahead.
I feel like it has to be. It has to be that, or it's either General Patton or actually probably who it should be would be Jesus. Wouldn't it be something to sit down and talk to Jesus for an hour?
Yeah, I think Jesus already has all the answers. So yeah, that'd be a good conversation. Pretty enlightening. No pun intended. Don't mean to be blasphemous there. God, love you. What is the most unique place on earth that you've ever visited?
Most unique place on earth. So back when I was in the medical sales day, I got to take a trip to Switzerland and do some training over there for a bunch of the European sales reps and whatnot. And we took a gondola ride. Oh, yeah, not do that in my backyard. I got to have a killer backyard. But no, it took a gondola ride up to the top of this mountain. You could stood at the top of the mountain and just floated. You could see the lakes and you could look at the Alps all across. I mean, it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. I don't know if it's all that unique, but it was a fascinating, beautiful place to be.
Oh, I absolutely think that uniqueness of that place is in the eye of the beholder. One of the most unique place on earth for me, and the reason I asked this question is because I went to Mexico a couple years ago with my family, and I was actually down in one of the cenotes, underwater, pools of water, swimming with my family. I mean, it was just surreal under the water in Mexico on the Yucatan Peninsula. Just very unique place. But I love hearing about people's travel.
Another good place was in Maui a few years ago. My wife and I were there, and we went to I can't remember what the name of that mountain is in the middle of Maui, but we went up there and watched the sunset from a 14,000 or 15,000 foot peak, and it was freezing cold, and the sun setting, and you're above the clouds, so you're watching it set above the clouds. It's a pretty stunning. If you ever go to Maui, it's worth going to the top of that mountain.
Well, I hope my wife's listening. That needs to be on the list because we take some pretty cool vacations. We'll have to put that on the list. All right, here's kind of a big question with the podcast. Who is the GOAT? Michael Jordan or LeBron?
Michael Jordan, hands down.
Okay, why?
Why?
Yeah.
That dude never freaking lost, ever. He played 82 games when he was 40 years old. Like, he never sat out a game. He didn't get rest days. Like, and when he'd drive inside and the bad boy Pistons would try to take his head off, like, imagine how much LeBron would cry over that.
Yeah, I'm definitely on Team MJ as well. So, all right, we've had this discussion so much that I'm gonna say, hold on, I'm gonna save that question for this. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Man, I haven't sung karaoke in a long time. It's got to be probably Hootie and the Blowfish or something.
Oh my.
Yeah, no, I can rip that one out.
There you go.
I'm not going to do it for you though. There's no way.
Well, that was the next part of the question.
No,
okay.
Not going to happen.
That's cool. All right, what's the best advice you could give to an officer entering the service today?
You know what? I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of young officers just because, kids coming out of West Point and whatnot, and just the connections I have with a bunch of borrowers, and I get to do their loans and everything. I will tell you that the one thing I tell all of them is the most important thing in your life for really the rest of your life is going to be the connections that you build with other people. And I look back as a young lieutenant, I'll run into my classmates as a young lieutenant, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" Or see them at a bar or whatever, and you're all doing the same things, right? You're all lieutenants, you're all platoon leaders, but you don't spend time really getting to know them at that point. And then as you get a little bit older and people start to go their own ways and do different things, now I look back and I go, man, I wish I would have known all these guys when they were young people. Now I know them as adults, and I go, I'm trying to build relationships with people that I should have had relationships with for the last 30 years. And they're out doing amazing things all across the country, in all these different sectors of life. And I see our classmates being able to lean on each other for, whatever it is. Hey, I need help with this, or I need help with that, or I need some advice here. And people are willing to come together. And, I see people that, lose their spouse or something, and I see how people come together and hold each other up. And to me, that's become the most important thing is the relationships you build with people, young servicemen, if you're a young veteran or young serviceman watching this, we build relationships with those people around you, because those are the people that are going to carry you through like the tough times in life.
Excellent freaking answer. Yeah, I still have very strong bonds with a lot of the people that I served with at Fort Campbell. If anything happens with anyone from the alumni, that text chain is going to go off. So you have to definitely develop those relationships and foster those relationships.
Oh.
Sorry, that's just from an NCO perspective. All right, we're going to have one last question, because one of these questions on the hot seat was going to be why should a veteran leverage the VA loan? But I think I'll just forward the entire show to Matt. He can just we can just get that video for that. So, okay, here's the big question. Last question of the night, most important question. Who's the greatest of all time, Prince or Michael Jackson?
I don't have a reason why. I gotta say it's gotta be Michael Jackson.
All right, as you can see, this is a highly contested one. Bring me in there with Patton. This is highly contested right here. So you're telling me that Michael Jackson is just caught up. He's at 24 now. So
all right,
I grew up with Michael Jackson as well. So there's no real wrong answer to this, but you'd be amazed at some of the arguments that we've had over these answers that we get.
You know what? I wouldn't even know how to argue that one, because I'm not really a fan of either of them.
Right.
I just think if you played all of Michael Jackson's songs, I would probably be able to sing a few more of them than if you played all of Prince's songs. We
have surprisingly heard that argument. I can't argue with it. You're right. Prince.
That's really what it came down to. Is okay. How many of those could I? How many songs off the top of my head of Michael Jackson could I sing right now compared to Prince? I think all right, you got Purple Rain, but after that, like, what do I got? Like, maybe not that much.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste. I'm hearing, but I've been listening.
I'm from North Dakota. That's not far from Minneapolis.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know. I figured you'd know all the moves, but hey, it's all good. So, sir, or Patton, you've been on the program. You're in front of cameras for a living. You see interactions all the time. So give us some good and bad. How do you rate us 1 through 10, and how can we get better at our podcast?
I think you guys did a great job. I enjoyed it. I was a little uncomfortable at the very beginning there, punching people in two or whatever. But, after that, I think you guys settled in.
Very nice.
Yeah, I gotta watch more of your stuff so I can see who else you're talking to and the kind of other things. But you know what? At the end, I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to just talk to people. And there's a stat out there, and I think it's something like 95% of loan officers do fewer than like 2 VA loans a year on average. And so that means there's 5% of them that are actually maybe have some talent and the ability to take care of people. Those are the people you guys ought to be hitting up if you're a veteran. Like, just make sure you're talking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. Google me and my friends me and my guys will take great care of you. If you need something, feel free to reach out.
You just say Google me?
Yeah.
Google me.
I Google pretty well when you're talking VA loans.
That's what I'm talking about. We've officially graduated out of the hot seat. Let's bring the guys back in real quick.
All right.
He actually asked you the question the proper way this time, though, Patton.
No leading the witness.
Yeah, he didn't lead the witness. Because
Yeah.
Ty will go, who is the greatest entertainer of all time? And then it's like, no shit. And then he'll go, greatest musician of all time. Like, I wonder why they answered it that way. But he did good today, Ty. He didn't lead you.
Yeah. Well, I'm learning. Yeah.
He did good. Hey, Al, advice. You don't need to be punching people and knocking them out, bro.
First of all, I was relating that to all the videos I'm watching of like people just going ape shit.
I've not seen it, but now it's probably going to come up on my Facebook feed.
Oh, it's going to come up, and you're going to watch it and be like, man, I can understand why that guy punched that lady unconscious. Like, she was like throwing haymakers and like scratching him and grabbing him by his throat. I'm knocking you out too.
I could visualize
equal rights for equal fights. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we were kids, we knew don't hit a girl. Nowadays,
That's right.
You don't know what you're hitting, so just hit everything.
That's so funny.
All right.
That's such a Navy thing to say, and there's different ways of thinking that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. I agree.
All the questions from Bob about the refi. Yeah, he's good to go. All right.
Yeah. Well, Patton, we appreciate you coming on, man. We really do. And thank you for taking the time. I mean, it's cliche. You heard it in a lot of different places. You could have been anywhere today, probably doing anything. And you chose to give us a little bit of your time to educate people, tell people more about your story. And it was just a pleasure to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. And, hopefully this isn't the last time we ever get to talk to you. Hopefully we get to talk to you a lot more because there's so much more that we can tell people and give them and help them out with. So if there's ever anything that you want to talk about, something big is happening, you need to announce it, you want people to know, you're always welcome to come back.
Thank you, sir.
And jump in anytime.
Appreciate you. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it, guys.
All right.
I'll spend my Tuesday evening. I can tell you that.
There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
I heard you got an awesome backyard. Next time you come on, we need to you need to be in the backyard doing it live from the backyard.
Oh, I built a pretty killer pool.
Matt said you got a sweet backyard. So next time you need to be in the backyard.
Shout out to the mad scientist, Matt Duhan.
He's in the house. There he is.
It's not my fault, Matt. I promise. It's not my fault.
Blame it on the rain.
All right, Patton. We appreciate you very much, man. We'll talk to you soon, and air salt, bro.
All right, gents. Beat Navy.
Hoorah.
Oh, you know what? I know you're gonna be there this year. We'll see you there.
You know what? That's the other thing I'll say. If you've never been to an Army Navy game, to go watch that football game, it's a bucket list event. And I don't care who you cheer for, you ought to go there and just be a part of the pageantry and what goes on. It's a ton of fun.
Nice.
Heck yeah, dude.
All right, so we're going to do a triple threat vet Army Navy game.
Yes, we Real quick, was that dude carrying a football in the jungle?
Yeah,
That's what it looked like to me.
The Army-Navy game.
That's why we lost Vietnam right there.
Exactly, bro. At least just carry the gun, dude. We already know it says. Oh my goodness. Y'all take it real, man. Keep it real.
All right, Patton, we'll see you soon, brother.
See you, gents.
All right, have a good one. How about that? That's pretty cool.
There you go.
Awesome. He's pretty impressive.
There you go. I'm telling you guys, if you want to buy a home, you need to talk to people that can give you the best advice. And Patton is that guy. His team, they will take care of you. And like he said, you heard him say it. Just find someone that knows what they're doing. Just don't listen to the first person, because VA loans are not complicated, but everybody else that's involved in that process make it complicated and make you think that it's going to be hard, difficult, terrible. And they always blame it on the VA. I mean, I get it. You want to blame a lot of shit on the VA, but it's not the VA. All the VA does is back your loan. And you guys need to know that.
That's why I call you, Matt. That's why I'd be calling you. And I'm like, hey, this guy, he told me this. And like, I called you about the points. You were like, they're bullshit.
Yeah. Like that one time when you were like, they told me I got to pay a lot of money. I'm like, how many times have you bought a house, bro?
But like you're lying.
Yeah, it's just things to know. And guys like Patton and his team, and they're going to know those things. They're going to be able to ask you. They're going to find information. You're going to be like, how did you know that about me? Like, well, we're pretty good at what we do. And so, it's just a great thing. So like you heard him, if you're on the fence, you could pay a lot more for a house, even though you get a better interest rate in 6 months to a year. Or if you're ready to do it, go ahead and do it. Right. There's no good time to do anything. And the people that wait on the sidelines always lose out. And remember, buy the black shirt. That's the one you got to get. 100%.
What are the numbers roughly?
I think the numbers are roughly the same that they were, because I think all of Al's friends and family decided that they needed to take a break because the economy is getting pretty expensive and they ain't got no more t-shirts.
They're all worried about these tariffs, a bunch of idiots. They're all worried right now. They're worried about buying milk and eggs and bread instead of my t-shirt.
Yeah, we're right about the same. Al's in the lead, probably like I think 18 or 19. I'm at like 12 and you're at like 9 roughly in there. I can get exact for you, but we're still probably in the same. So jump out, go get them.
Let's push it.
Absolutely. Same flag, same oath.com. Next week, we're going to have Dr. Mitch Maki, President and CEO of the Go for Broke National Education Center. We're going to be learning about a lot of the Fighting 442nd members. So you may have heard about the Fighting 442nd, one of the most decorated per capita for medals of honor and valorous medals. We'll hear from Dr. Mitch Maki next week.
Pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. All right, so I'm literally gonna have to send that to Matt Duhan. That could be a whole class right there in and of itself.
You're just helping that. You're helping that reel feed, dude. You're gonna feed that algorithm. People want to know how to get a loan. There it goes. It's gonna pop up into their shit.
Yeah.
Hey Matt, just make sure you fix the lighting on me. I gotta look good for them videos, bro. Make sure Al has a proper beard, all gray or all black. It just can't be like butthole ring anymore. You know what I mean?
This is what it's got to be.
All right, Matt.
Well, yeah, it's about that time to go. Again, another Tuesday. We really appreciate everybody coming in. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for everybody that's going to hear this after. And by the way, you're welcome. We hooked you guys up with another great American that served their country and can help you after service. So whether you're in service, after service, or you just need a place to live, Patton is your guy. So again, you're welcome for that. Come back next Tuesday. Remember, if you know somebody that needs to tell a story, we'd love to hear it. We'd love you to support our contest for the t-shirts, trying to give some money to some veteran organizations. We all know that they do great things for veterans. So you guys need to go to sameflagsameoath.com today, pick your shirt, and help out these organizations. And with that, just want to tell you guys we're out, and I'll give it to the fellas. See you guys next week.
Real quick, once again, like we say every week, check on your battle buddies, man. Reach out to somebody, tell them you're thinking about them, telling you love them. Make sure you reach out to anybody. I don't care who it is. Reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while, somebody you're thinking about. They might be doing great, but you won't know until you check on them. So make sure you reach out and tell somebody you're thinking about them and you care about them and you want to see them tomorrow. So reach out to your people. Like I always say, don't sweat the petty stuff, pet that sweaty stuff. I love y'all. See y'all next week.
Does that to me every time. Another week of stories. We love telling stories. We got some big interviews coming up. A lot of things going on with the program. If you want to tell your story, be sure and hit us up at triplethreatbets@gmail.com and get on here and we'll tell your story. Till next time, we'll see you soon.
If you or someone you know is in crisis, contact the Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. Then press 1.